In this video, we're going to explore how do you actually set up your frequency distribution in the first place. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do is actually put in your data. Once you've got your data in, the easiest thing to do next is actually sort your data. So I'm going to highlight all my data, and I can hold Control, Shift, and push down, and it selects all of my data. And I'm going to sort it from least to greatest. So I'm in the Home, and all the way to the right is Sort and Filter, and I'm going to do smallest to largest. And you can see it goes from 7, puts it all in order all the way to my last one here, which is 86. Now, as you can see, I've got some words I've already written in here to save some time, because these are parts I'm going to need to be able to do my frequency distribution. I've got the range, the number of classes, the class width, and then round up. And then my lower class limit, my upper class limit, the midpoint, frequency, relative frequency, and cumulative frequency. It's a good habit just to continue to always do these parts so that if you're asked to do any of them, you're ready to do them. The first place we start is with the range. Now, the range I can use, this one of the reasons I sort my data is because I know that the range is from the difference of my maximum value and my minimum value. So my maximum value is 86. And my minimum is 7. And I can use Excel by putting an equal sign and then just have it do the subtraction for me. Now I know that my classes, and the problem before we talked about this, the number of classes was 7. So if I'm going to do my class width, again I can use the equal sign, and I know my class width is the range, put the divide sign, and then I can click on the value for the number of classes. The other thing to remember is that our class width, we always want to round up to the next convenient number, even if our class width had come out as a whole number. So we'd round up to 12. So this is the important thing. We know that our minimum value is 7 and our class width is 12. So our first lower class limit is always the minimum value, which is 7 in this case. To get the next one, I add my class width, which is 12. 7 plus 12 is 19. Now here's a neat feature of Excel. If I highlight these two values, and you can see it has a black box around it, in the little right corner is a square. If I drag that, it's going to fill in every value until I let go. So I need 7 values. So I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I got all 7 of my lower class limits. Now my upper class limit, I'm going to do one less than this, so it'd be 18, and I can do one less than this one, which would be 30. What I should recognize is that 18 and 30 are 12 apart, which is what it should be since it's the class width. And again, I can highlight both and drag down, and it fills in all those values for me. My midpoint, I can do two different ways. Excel has a function called average that will allow me to just highlight the two cells, the lower and the upper, and push enter, and it fills in the values. So now it says the average of these two values is 12.5. Another great feature, I could drag and it'll fill in the rest, or I can double click on that box and it fills in all values in that column that have something to match up with it. Now frequency I can do two different ways. I can do it manually, or I can use Excel to do it. Manually would be, I'd want to count from between 7 and 18. So it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there'd be 6 in my frequency. Then 19 to 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then 31 to 42. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Then from 43 to 54, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You need to scroll up here. And then 55 to 66. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 67 to 78. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I can see my last group will have 2. So 6 and 2. That's doing it manually. Now if I wanted to do it using Excel, there's a function called frequency. So I do the equal sign, and then I start to type in frequency, and you can see it pops up. I double click. Now the data array, that's all of my data. If I click on the first one, I can highlight all of it, or I can hit Control, Shift, and down, and it selects all of my data for me. And then my bin array, that is my upper class limits. So I'm going to highlight all of my upper class limits, close off the parenthesis, and hit Enter. Now here's the important step. That gives me only the first one. To get the rest of them, I'm going to highlight all 7 of the different cells in frequency. I'm going to hit F2, and you see how that highlights those upper limits. And I'm going to hold Control, Shift, and Enter. Control, Shift, Enter, and it fills in all the values. And those are the exact same numbers we just had. So you can do it manually, or you can use that little trick. Now for the relative frequency, I need to know how many are there total in my frequencies. I can use another function called the sum function. And what the sum function will do is it'll add up all of these values for me. And I just have to highlight them all. You see how the blue box is around it? So that tells me there were 50 total frequencies, or 50 total entries. Now the relative frequency, as you remember, is a proportion of the total. So I can take this individual frequency and divide it by the total. Now if I want to be able to do the drag down feature like I did before with some of these, I want this 50 to always be the same. The way I do this, I hit F4, and you'll see it puts the dollar signs in. So in Excel, anytime I want a feature to stay the same within a formula, I just hit F4, and that feature will be locked. Oops. So it's this one, hit F4, hit Enter, and now I can just double click in the bottom right corner, and it fills in all my values for me. The cumulative, I know, starts with 6, and I know that to get the next one, it is the value prior plus the frequency of that group. And again, if I just double click, then it'll use that formula to fill in all the values. And my last cumulative frequency should always be the same as the total frequency I found here. And that's the basics of building your own frequency distribution.